Hey, so you want to learn about the game that takes 400 days to complete? Well, you came to the right place. Today I'll be telling you everything about the longing. Right this way. Let me set the stage. This is the Shade, and this is the cave he's bound to. They were both created by this king dude down here who basically needed to take a really long nap to recharge his powers. But he couldn't wake up on his own from his nap, so he created a living alarm clock to wake him up in exactly 400 days. And in the meantime, the king gave the Shade a pretty cool place to stay. I mean, like, it's pretty comfy. There's a nice armchair there and, like, all a Moby Dick. But that's really it. So obviously the Shade will go exploring. As the Shade leaves, he walks past his creator. And he walks some more. And then he keeps walking. The Shade, his main thing is walking. And he does it really slowly, too. After this walking, the Shade approaches its first roadblock. A door. But this isn't any door. This door takes like a while to open. So the Shade has to sit and wait. Which really isn't a big deal for the Shade, because what is its purpose beyond waiting? But while the Shade is waiting, let's talk about today's sponsor. Me. I'm the sponsor. Yeah. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. Please. Please. Okay, now that the door is open, the Shade can continue to walk. And walk. And you get the deal. He walks a lot, okay? The caves seem endless as the Shade explores, but more unfortunately for him, they're also very clearly empty, other than the coal falling from the ceiling. Which, side note, every time that the Shade picks up a piece of coal, he says, "A fallen brother has returned," which is honestly one of the hardest quotes ever. It's like goes up there right next to those video game shirt quotes. The ones that say, "Sorry, I'm busy gaming. I can't do dishes, mother." Anyways, the Shade now approaches the exit to the kingdom. The only thing stopping him from leaving is a door. It's another door. Yeah, this one takes even longer to open though. So in the meantime, another walking montage. Walk, 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 walk. Yeah. Look at that. The Shade's back at the door. And now it's open. So the only thing stopping the Shade from leaving the kingdom is himself. Because, I mean, really, the only purpose of the Shade is to wake up the king. So what even really is the Shade? Because without the kingdom, he is nothing. But of course, he has to continue on, for there isn't much else to do. Through the door, it's honestly not that different from the rest of the kingdom, but it is noticeably more run down. To the left, there's literally just disappointment. And I don't mean that in a metaphorical thing. The Shade literally collects a disappointment when he goes over there. Moving on, the Shade continues up and to the right to encounter its first obstacle that requires more than waiting. He has to push a boulder! Woo! Yeah! Wah! This boulder allows the Shade to continue on and meet the seemingly only other living creature in this cave. It's a spider! Wah! Then, of course, the Shade accidentally falls into its web, almost killing him and the spider. But it's okay, the spider doesn't seem too bothered, and he starts spinning a new web right away. And this is the start of a great friendship. And a really one-sided friendship at that, because the spider could not be more indifferent to the Shade's existence. It kind of reminds me of your dad and how he's still in love with your mom despite them being divorced for like 10 years. Anyways, now the Shade can sit here and wait, but this time he's no longer alone. Okay, while he's busy waiting once again, let's talk about the Shade as a character. Because obviously he's like the embodiment of waiting. That's all he does. He waits. And this is clearly supposed to be a representation of us as humans. But it's less like some of the other capitalist type of representations. Like, break the matrix, the government workplaces controlling you and your family, you die young. But it's much more nuanced than that. Because the Shade still constantly has a choice. Like, he can always choose to do new and different actions. Which is just really vital to the Shade as a character. Okay, next one. Well, look at that. The web's finished. And it only took 34 hours. Wow. This is a good time to mention that everything in the game is taking a lot longer than what you see. We're kind of speed running through the game, hence, like, all the jumping montage and stuff. Speaking of which, another montage right now! Basically, the Shade climbs up, sees a bunch of mushrooms, has to use these mushrooms to, like, do a puzzle, but he doesn't really understand the puzzle, so he has to look at the longing wiki, and it makes no sense, but then the mushroom actually grows big, and he, like, climb up it, and it's really dark, so he has to bring another glowing mushroom. Okay, back to normal speed. After walking in the darkness for a while, the mushroom's no longer effective, and the Shade is left in complete and utter darkness. This is where he encounters the Angst, who happens to look a lot like the Shade. I wonder if that could mean anything. As the Shade approaches, he's stopped in his tracks. He can't move as the Angst get closer, and it all fades to black. Boom! We're back in the Shade's cave. And I'm back in a new spot. Look at this. It's like 3 inches away from the previous a spot. I like changed the angle just a little bit. But the good news is his house is actually not as dumb anymore, because on his adventures he got a bunch of new stuff. Like now he has cool papers to draw on, and I do so many lists I don't even know. Just look. It's like, okay. But because all these new epic drawings and other things that I didn't even talk about, the time goes by faster. Like 2 seconds faster, but that's still like a decent amount. That's not bad. That's like double the speed. So maybe exploring the kingdom really is the answer of how to endure this longing. So the shade goes out again. So real talk here, this part of the game is like really fun to like actually play, not that interesting to look at. So I'm just gonna, whoa, look at that. Look at all the stuff the shade has. And he explored the entire kingdom. And now time is just flying by. You could just stay here forever. I bet the time won't even feel that long. How much longer is even left? 300 days? Bro, it's been like a quarter of the time. So what's the shade to do? Because despite all his adventures, it still couldn't cure his illness of time. I thought that went really hard, that line. So I just like, yeah. Anyways, so the shade like can either just stay here in his home and wait the rest of his life, or go out exploring again. In reality, the shade really has one place left to go, beyond the angst. But how is he gonna get there? Well, he has to look within. So the shade has had like an evolution of trials, right? He first had to just wait. He had to wait for the world to change around him. Then he had to change the world. He had to take action, push a boulder, make some mushrooms. But now he has to do a new trial. He has to change himself around the world. So the shade sits down and learns to close his eyes and look inwards. Warning, this is all gonna be like really vague and metaphorical like it is in the game, so have fun. But I'll give a big explanation at the end, so just stick with me, okay? Shade returns to where he first faced the angst, in the total darkness. This time, he closes his eyes, walks forwards, and becomes one with the angst. He is now the very darkness which he feared. He continues on, up past the darkness, leaving it behind. And he has one last question. Should he stay? For his whole purpose is to wake the king. But if he goes further, will he be able to continue? He still continues on and reaches his final destination, a bucket which would make him leave the cave once and for all. What decision should he make? Abandon his very purpose and pursue on, or stay here and fulfill his destiny? Shade knows this choice is already made. He made this choice when he decided to leave the kingdom, or even just to leave his own home, because the shade was building a new purpose for himself, a purpose beyond what he was destined to be. So the shade enters the bucket and gets pulled up and meets this dumb, stupid little kid who drops on his head and kills him. Yes, he dies. That's just one of the endings. In the other ending, a blind old man brings him up and then like helps him out of the bucket, but he doesn't know he's there because he's blind. As the shade leaves the bucket, he can hear his kingdom crumbling below him, the kingdom which his whole purpose was built upon. Though now he has a new one. He's no longer bound to what he was once destined to become. So the shade walks to probably the hardest soundtrack ever to meet his new destiny, a family which loves him. Okay, that's it with all the like metaphorical. Thanks for sticking with it. But now I will give you an explanation of what kind of happened, okay? Next shot. This is the new next shot. It's like 3 inches away. And now I'm going to attempt to explain all of that stuff that happened, like, because it was kind of confusing. But also bear in mind, this is my own interpretation. This is not like official exactly, but kind of. So basically the angst, as I suggested before, is the shade in a way. It's the shade's like fears and doubts about the future. So then the shade has to learn to accept those fears and doubts within him. And that's him being able to close his eyes in a way. He's able to come to terms with that. So then once he faces the angst again, faces his fears, he's able to accept them as part of who he is and become the angst. But then as he continues on, he has a doubt again about leaving the kingdom. But he already has accepted those fears and anxieties for himself and is able to go beyond them this time. Realize that he's built a purpose beyond the kingdom. And him being pulled up away from the kingdom is like his final action of like putting away what he was assigned to be and becoming a new person and thing. And then once he goes with his family, that's his like new life, which he's happier in, and it's all cool. And yep, that's basically it. There's also another ending where you actually like wait and wake the king, and that one's a lot more vague, and I don't really understand it because the king's like, "There's no more longing," and then the shade like is okay with the king. I don't know. If you understand that one, put in the comments. Put your theories. I think it's probably like a metaphor for capitalism or something. I don't know. That's it. Bye. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you liked it. I've been Drumpy. There's videos here, and there's another one maybe here. I don't know. Or there's subscribe. Okay, bye.